I've always helped people remember who they are and feel into their power, feel into what their gifts and their skills are. I've really helped people let go of what no longer serves them and transform that into fuel for their mastery, for them to shift their life into the positive. The magic happens when you can hear your heart sing. Literally hear your heart sing. I just want you to know you were born for this, that you have everything you need to really do you this lifetime. So let's get started. Let's make magic together. Welcome, everyone. It is so wonderful to see you. I'm Joan of Angels, and I am actually working with Portal to Ascension and Neil Gar on some of our programs. And today I get to interview Laura Eisenhower and bring our Global Alchemist, our Medical Intuitive Astrologer, our friend who was really ahead of all people when it comes to light worker knowledge, information, disclosure, and more. She's been the cutting edge of all of that. But meanwhile, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Joan of Angels. I'm an intuitive. I am a soul awakening specialist. I help you remember who you are and why you're here. And you can find me at joanofangels.com and check out my YouTube channel, also at Joan of Angels. I'd appreciate that as well. So great. So we're about to talk to Laura Eisenhower, and I want to remind you, she has been around teaching us about global alchemy, cosmic Gaia, astrology, what is going on, and the Eisenhower. She really is telling us the truth about Eisenhower, exopolitics, and more. So most of you already know her. I'm not going to take a lot of time to introduce her. But before I introduce her, actually, I'm going to share with you some of what's going on at Portal to Ascension. So give me a second, and I'm going to bring that up on screen so you know about our coming events. Here we go. Beautiful. Share screen. And here we go. So tonight we have the feast day with Mary Magdalene, Phil Gruber, and Mariana Hernandez. It's going to be a great event tonight. So join us for that. We have Mary Wadwell coming up next month on multidimensional past life contact with non-human intelligences. And then we have our big Hybrids Online Conference 2022, which I think this is our second annual hybrid conference. So I know you're going to want to join us for that. And then ending it up in August with Neil's event on the Ultimate Sound and Frequency webinar. So if you've heard Neil doing any of his shows on sound healing, you'll know that that's some of the best that we can do. All right, so we're going to bring our guest up, Laura Eisenhower. She needs almost no introduction. We all know her and we love her. So welcome, Laura Eisenhower.
Hello, Joan. So great to be here. Always good to be with you.
I have wanted to interview you for a long time, so I want to thank Neil for providing this opportunity. And, you know, I have a curiosity about you, Laura. Like, you are an Eisenhower, and Eisenhower is a brand in itself. You know, what was it like for you growing up as an Eisenhower? Like, what were the expectations, or what was that like?
Right. That's a great question. Well, oh gosh, it was more normal than I think people might realize. I think it was really extraordinary for my mother because her and her siblings spent a lot of time at the White House. They had Secret Service. It was definitely known that they were the grandchildren of Eisenhower. Our generation was a little bit different. We grew up, I was born in England. We moved to the US and had a very, I guess, I don't know what the word normal means anymore. I don't think there is a definition for it, but we're a family with my father. They got divorced when I was 4. And when my mom was single, we actually lived in a very kind of rundown part of upstate New York, going to thrift stores and living very humbly. So you wouldn't think that this was a presidential family. And it wasn't that my mom's father, my grandfather, and my grandmother, my mom's parents, weren't helpful, but there's no like trust funds or we're just going to give you a free ride kind of energy. So my mom always worked really hard to provide for us. And then she got remarried and life became a little bit easier. But eventually that marriage didn't work out. We moved to the DC area. And that's when it was a little bit more like, okay, you know, there's events like the bicentennial of Eisenhower, different events that would bring us to Washington, D.C. And even growing up, I mean, just being raised in the Eisenhower family, even though they're your aunts and uncles and grandparents, you look at the bookshelf, you look at the family albums, and that was where it was really surreal, just being in a historical family where every member of the family, or most of them, have written books. My grandfather has written a bunch of books. And that's the son of Eisenhower, right? So he was such a fascinating person to get to know over the years. We were very, very close. We always gathered together, but it sort of hits you. I mean, I was getting visitations from Eisenhower at a young age, and my mission was sort of being downloaded to me at a young age. But it wasn't like we lived an extraordinary sort of presidential bloodline existence. Like I said, it was a lot different for my my mom and my aunts and uncles. But yeah, I had a really close affinity with the spirit of Eisenhower. I spent time at the Gettysburg farm and held Mamie's hand a couple of months before she passed away when I was 4 years old. So going back to the Gettysburg farm now is a museum, right? So it's kind of surreal. It's like, oh my God, I remember sleeping in that room and using that bathroom and eating dinner at this table. I know it's a lot.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know it's a lot more surreal for my mom, but we've just stayed a very, very close family. And I just learned a lot of extraordinary things about who Eisenhower really is as a man, and really got firsthand experience of how loving and how incredible this family really is. And it's not the norm that you would see in a presidential bloodline. I'll tell you that. There's a lot of misinformation, disinformation about the Eisenhower family, but we're actually descended from Mennonites. So there's that sort of humble farmer vibration that everybody sort of carries, but everybody's worked real hard too, and has created their own successes on their own terms, as far as being authors or professors. My mom's a teacher at Gettysburg College, and she's done some extraordinary things. She's written her fourth book called How Ike Led, and we just had a great conversation yesterday, and it just reminds me of how loving and supportive this family is, and it doesn't breathe sort of that Illuminati kind of bloodline sort of stuff, but it's been a very misunderstood and very projected upon bloodline or family. As we know, there's been a lot of disinformation cast upon him as far as the ET government treaties and also things that took place during the Second World War. So I've been trying to unearth a greater truth. And that's part of my mission, I think, being born into this blood or this family, It's like at a young age, I'm like, how did I end up in this family?
Well, obviously you belong in this family. Obviously you have a presidential bloodline, and you have, I do believe that we have lineages and that come through. And you've said two interesting things to me so far. Number one, that you come from a Mennonite background, which that's a far cry from the heavy Anunnaki lineage. Also, it's a little bit, it's an offshoot with a whole different energetics. And then you said that there was some disclosures about the Eisenhower lineage that I want to hear about. And then I also want to, you came in as a change agent. It's apparent you came in as an Eisenhower, yes, but with some kind of change agent DNA that was somehow already known, because they were trying to take you out from the beginning of your life, I think.
Yeah, you got that right. Yeah, I was targeted. What I heard was before birth, Eisenhower was disclosed in his administration that a descendant would be born to help do or expose what he couldn't. So I think we've all had a little bit of an experience with that. And when you connect all the dots with everything that our family members have brought forward, is very interesting. But nobody's really touched the UFO, ET government treaties, or Valthor, or what really took place after the war in the reference or context of things related to UFOs and ETs. So that's kind of been my piece, but everybody's played an incredible role in their own experience and their own research. But yeah, I think the piece that I brought in was coming in with the drive and the passion to unearth our true galactic history, the stuff that we don't learn about in school in terms of what our DNA is really all about. It's not junk DNA. Our DNA holds higher harmonic universes and reveals our potential in terms of alchemical marriage, hierogamic union that is encoded in our DNA, which is part of that greater love story, which I have talked about in a lot of webinars, that Portal to Ascension has put on, which has been an incredible platform. I love you guys so much. And I've known you for a really long time, but this platform has helped me to express a lot of my presentations that, was definitely something that I was called to bring in. I went to a clairvoyant institute for a couple of years in Berkeley, California, Santa Rosa area. And that was sort of unexpected, but I worked a lot of past lives and really got in touch with my particular calling and mission, how that relates to Eisenhower. Many said that I was his spirit guide during the Second World War and that we've worked together for multiple lifetimes, which I don't doubt, but I kind of take everything with a grain of salt. I don't like to create fixed beliefs. I like the flexibility of being able to kind of adjust myself accordingly, or to just kind of put some things in the back burner and not overly focus so I can pay attention to the task at hand, because we're definitely still in this incredible war on consciousness. And I think the warning about the military industrial complex is that multi-layered kind of system that we're dealing with that has impacted the hearts and minds and emotions of humanity and to a very, very extreme degree in these times that we're in. So I definitely felt into this mission as a child, and it was very much surrounding this particular window period. So when they tried to get me off planet, and that targeting was happening at a young age to steer me off course so that I would be on a timeline that would take me to Mars in 2012 as a part of being a permanent colonist on a Mars colony, I had to really stand my ground and refuse it at all costs in order to, play a part, just like you guys are and so many of us are in these particular times, to help humanity awaken, not just to these hidden truths connected to disclosure, but the truth about who we really are and what we're capable of. So some of these hidden disclosures have to do with the fact that Eisenhower did not sign these treaties with ETs. It was done behind his back through MJ-12. And there was an unconditional surrender agreement that took place in 1952, around the time that the UFOs flew over the Capitol and created a lot of intimidation in the Truman administration. And I actually set up Ike's Force, the USMC Special Section, in order to turn the super soldier programs into something benevolent, in order to utilize those abilities for the good of humanity, to be able to do hidden positive military operations. So he also created the White Hats and worked with Val Thor to connect with the sphere beings to create eventually the Earth Alliance. And so there's a lot of interesting history that has not been able to be revealed. And a lot of it's been given to me recently because I think the timing is right. But it's not like I can reassure everybody, oh, yeah, the White Hats are doing this and doing that. There's a lot of disinfo about what the so-called White Hats are doing. And we're in a world of a lot of confusing information as far as what we should believe or not believe. But I think the most important thing is that we believe in ourselves and we don't forget who we are. I think that's the most important thing. And to be open-minded and flexible to all this other information. But I know we have to step up to the plate. Nobody's going to come and save the day. But if we can raise our vibration and be a force of positive change, we'll be working as a team with the positive military and the benevolent ETs that are out there and certainly here with us. But nobody's going to do it for us. We're a greater team, and we're waking up to that galactic history and these strands of DNA that are dormant that we're going to switch on so that we can understand that we hold those genetics and they are a part of our galactic family. So,
okay,
right?
let's see if I can break that down and I can grasp it. You came in with a very special assignment, and that is honestly to break down part of the Eisenhower tradition into the parts that were really for the good and upliftment of humanity that seem to have been covered over, or even, I guess what you're saying, aborted, like trying to shift that timeline. So you're saying that was the beginning of the White Hats. Do you want to talk a little bit about them? Like, what was Eisenhower's intention? What was he seeing that he was realizing he had to protect humanity already?
Well, yeah, I think he definitely realized that the people that acted like allies or friends or supportive of his greater mission in terms of just being in service to humanity and playing an important role as a leader, I think he, really began to realize that they were not on the same page and they were actually not allies at all. They were pretty much the very kind of force or group that he was looking to take down when he was a general in the Second World War. I mean, he tried to defeat the Nazis. He tried to liberate as many as he possibly could from not just the Nazis, but the ICC Draco Alliance, just everything connected to the dark forces that are trying to enslave and conquer and divide humanity and create endless wars so that we're never really able to get over trauma, historical wounds, and issues that they're still able to utilize to throw us back into traumas from previous lifetimes as we see certain narratives get steered. So yeah, the whole Project Mockingbird and Project Paperclip that came through after World War II, I think he began to realize the war wasn't won. Negotiations happened with the Nazis, and it couldn't be disclosed. The history books are completely rewritten and giving us false information. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I understand that they're completely rewritten and giving us false information. And there was a comment, you started to talk about the trauma that we have experienced. You know, if we go back to even your great grandfather Eisenhower, what he must have experienced in knowing the truth and then having to hide it from the people, because he sounded very much like a general for the people, if that could be said. And so he himself was, you know, I guess, dismantled. I'm trying to find the right word. He was taken out in those ways too.
Yeah. I mean, he had 8 heart attacks in his administration and afterwards. I mean, the stress that he was under was enormous. There was only so much that he could share. There's always threats, especially in that era. I mean, we see people like Phil Schneider and William Cooper definitely got offed, right? But a lot of those whistleblowers didn't have access to the top secret information that is above the president, that is actually a part of the 3-letter organizations and levels of those 3-letter organizations that even whistleblowers haven't had access to. So a lot of the information that whistleblowers came out with, as well-intentioned as they were, even though they didn't really survive long, they gave too much information, but they didn't give all the information because some of that was completely above top secret, right? So recently, in the last year or two, when you mentioned the white hats, I found out more. And I'll just give a quote from Dan Cooper, who's a senior advisor to the Earth Alliance. He says, Ike also established the white hats, the first of which were Texan U.S. generals and admirals. That's where the name white hats came from, Ike. Ike's white hats are the ones that brought Ronald Reagan into their fold right after the ICC Nazi Draco Alliance had him shot for attempting to disclose the secret space programs fully. It was Reagan and the white hats that had me convince China to do business and to teach China how to do business. I mean, it just goes on. And it talks about Val Thor, Earth Alliance, ICC, the USMC Special Section, part of the, positive military as well. USMC is United States Marine Corps. So there are many levels, of course, to the secret space programs and many branches of military, which is very much under the MK Ultra mind control. And you know, a lot of us have been exposing a lot about secret space programs and those kind of projects and the MK Ultra kind of stuff. And so his intention was to offset all that. So, you know, to be in a family that's gotten such a bad rap. I mean, I've gotten emails for the last 10 years of your great grandfather sold us out to the Greys and he murdered, all these Germans, millions of them. He's a war criminal. And it's like, okay, you know, maybe if that's true, I'm here to expose truth. But in doing so much research and never giving up on just how far that rabbit hole is going to take me, I have found out that none of that is actually true. And somebody named Mark Feldman did a documentary that exonerates Eisenhower from being charged with or accused of murdering millions of Germans, POWs, after the Second World War. And just gives a very, very thorough, true history of what really happened. So, yeah, I've been getting a lot of those emails, whether it's he sold us out to the Greys or he murdered millions of Germans after the war. I've been trying to undo that disinformation, not because of, wanting to be biased, but because we all need to live in a truth frequency. We need our restored history. We need our galactic history. We need to remember who we are. So it's beyond Eisenhower. It really goes deeper into we need to live in the vibration of truth, not based in the externals, but based in who we truly are, and to be a part of this larger conversation so that we can unwind from a lot of these distortions that are currently impacting and infecting the minds of our children. And we need to rescue future generations from this level of trickery and deception. So that's my main focus, is the children, future generations, and to remind humanity of who we truly are. And knowing, Eisenhower's not, so what that I'm related to him. He's we're a global family, right? He just played a very strong father role and a leadership role where he knew it wasn't up to one person. It's not up to a president. It's not up to just a leader. We're all leaders. He totally had the back of like star seeds through a lot of different channels and just the greater mission that we're all on, encouraging us to never forget or give up on ourselves, because we are a unified field and it's about all of us stepping up. And that's what people like you are doing. Portal to Ascension has been doing for so long. And a lot of people that are listening, and we're all a freaking team and a family. So that's a really important piece, because they're trying to divide us all.
Well, they are. And we're living in collective trauma. And someone had a question about how do we handle this collective trauma? Part of it is just by talking about it, like having these discussions, and also finding out that what we believed about something isn't even the truth. So, and I think that's the biggest problem I've been having recently, is that I'm looking things about how our timelines have been completely altered. History has completely been altered, and we don't even know the truth about who we are. So I have to take a deep breath on that, because even you're revealing that what we know about Eisenhower, his relationship to the ETs and what he was trying to do, is very different than what it was projected.
Yeah.
So Eisenhower was a white hat then, is what you're saying. He
established,
laid the foundation for that.
Yeah. As far as what Dan Cooper says, he established the white hats. He had a strong alliance and friendship with Val Thor from Venus. I know a lot of people have heard about Val Thor. And then he was put on VIP status, Val Thor. And he really helped Eisenhower to understand what was going on. He couldn't directly help humanity. Eisenhower really wanted to have Val Thor's mission, which is in alignment with Eisenhower's mission, our mission, liberating humanity, setting us free from this sort of enslavement agenda, which literally just targets the mind. Once the mind is free, they really don't have us. But so his alliance with Val Thor helped connect him with the sphere beings, which some whistleblowers have talked about. That might be not so much the person they used to be when they were whistleblowing, because a lot of the MyLab kids and the MK Ultra ones can get reprogrammed. So we have to be very careful and understand what we're dealing with. But anyway, the sphere beings supposedly put a barrier around the Earth in 2014. And this was part of how Val Thor connected Eisenhower to the sphere beings in order to protect us and safeguard these particular times that we're in. Now, a lot of people feel doom and gloom about where the timeline is heading. But as long as we free our minds and our emotions from the divide and conquer and all the attempts through the false narratives and what we see streaming through media and even the frequencies connected to our phones and just the towers that are surrounding us, if we can get our minds into a frequency beyond it, we can neutralize and nullify these weapons and also remove the substances in our body that are foreign, even down to the nanoparticles and the things we've been breathing in, and even, things connected to what. So that's why I think back in 2010, when I was creating my social media, I'm like, what do I call myself? I'm like, okay, well, Global Alchemist, because this is what we're all doing. We're turning the lead of this human experience into gold. We're switching on these dormant strands. We are connecting with the ether energy, because the pentagram through Venus transits and the Sophionic corrections is now upright. Symbolically, it's, with the Dark Mother reversals and the Baphomet and the SRA stuff, everything has been in reversal. There's been dark technologies that have impacted the planetary grid network, which in turn has impacted our DNA and scrambled our fire codes to the point where we just think we have junk DNA. We don't explore further because that's what science shows us. So, and that's just not true. We're in a time since the sun started to move through the 13th sign of Theicus in 2010 of truly stepping into alchemy, alchemical marriage within ourselves with the electric and magnetic, masculine and feminine, the integration of polarity. But on a cosmic and earthly level, this is happening. So when we look at the world and we are just like, whoa, this is really heavy. We are in the depths of that sort of heaviness and lead, because we're about to, and we are, as we speak, flipping it around and turning it into gold by staying focused on the truth, by staying focused on integrity and community, and doing all the things that we can do together to raise our vibration beyond what they're targeting, which is sacred union relationships, which is unity consciousness, which is the family unit, which is also our children and their minds. And there's nothing wrong with being a transgender, but like when there's indoctrination, like we're seeing in the school systems, and this level of, a lot of kids are going to break through it and just be like, whoa, like we did when we were probably growing up. But now it's next level. But we're being pushed to the edge because this is the time to flip it around. This is the window period of ascension, which to me is a time of global alchemy. That's why I called myself that, because I know this is what we're all doing. But it's funny when people introduce me, they're like, oh, she's a global alchemist. I'm like, that's so funny that stuck, because that's exactly what we're all doing. So,
well, actually, you still lead with it on one of your bios. So you're
I
still
know. Well,
out
I
there
mean, so
saying
if people read my
you're a
bios,
global,
exactly. But it's just
you're a
funny
global.
that, yeah, anybody introduces me or that I'm even being taken seriously. So thank you.
You are being Laura. You're an amazing change agent. You came here as a change agent. You were born from the womb with a name that would allow you, if you stepped in, to be that change agent that we need. So I have to commend you for carrying the responsibility of it, the burden. I remember when I first heard you, I heard you first at Conscious Life Expo, and you were talking about your Mars experience and how your fiance at the time and how you saw it, you avoided it. And it was really in those days, I wasn't so aware of the massive programming that's been going on. So I think you were one of the first people that woke me up of that, and you have that mission. And even based on what I'm hearing from all of our listeners, you have had a big effect on many people, Laura. Aww. So you might as well acknowledge to yourself you came in to be that leader, that global alchemist, and that what you say actually matters. So let's talk about let's lay this Eisenhower stuff to rest in a sense. Let's talk about Eisenhower then as the white hat, as what he would be saying if he was looking at this planned false alien invasion. Like, what would he be saying and telling us right now?
Oh, well, I mean, I feel he works very closely with the human race still. Balthor does as well. And I feel, yeah, that was in the warning, in his final speech, the warning of the military-industrial complex. As multi-layered as it is, a lot of people haven't found all those layers, right? So that's what people like me and many others have been trying to expose, are these other layers. And even just being like, what did that speech even mean? So when I look at that warning about the military-industrial complex, we're looking at secret space programs. We're looking at Project Mockingbird. We're looking at all the MK Ultra projects that came into the United States and spread itself all over the world. We're talking about geoengineering. I mean, the list is so long as far as everything that's been weaponized and everything that's being used against us in order to exploit our vulnerabilities. Now, it doesn't mean let's not be vulnerable, but let's put our heads together here, because we are healers. We are leaders. We can impact community and be very influential and work directly with the earth to be abundant and move beyond this, money system eventually, and everything that hooks into us or cords into us to create this exchange of energy where we're actually siphoned and harvested, and our creative energy and our creative imaginations are used to enable the very timelines that we don't want to be on, because artificial timelines are just that. They're artificial. That has nothing to do with who we truly are. It's engineered, and it's there to suck us in and vampire off of us so that we're actually consenting to something that we don't want. So, we're all kind of standing very strong and brave in our sovereignty, those that truly know, and we're going to do all we can to help those that are kind of stuck in the muck. So I think Eisenhower, from afar and working very closely, knows the task at hand. He said in his final speech, it's going to take a knowledgeable citizenry to undo this. It's up to the individual. This is a war on consciousness. We can only really win the war within ourselves. So once we get that piece taken care of, then we're in a completely different frequency. And it's not that we're in a higher dimension, but we're also grounded. We're restoring the tree of life template. We're out of the tree of knowledge that encouraged us to find self-knowledge, not knowledge that is so external to the point where our belief systems are all over the place, instead of really anchoring that energy within, understanding that ascension is an internal process. So we're storing that template, needing to be grounded, needing to really understand what this earth is all about, the galactic history connected to it. And I think he's smiling down on those of us that are on the front lines, that are doing all we can. And I think just like we feel in this human sphere, I don't think he's removed from emotionality. That's why I think he's interacting so much. But there's no way to avoid a certain level of heartbreak and grief in these times. We're kind of mourning. We're in a mourning process. We're also in every aspect of a Plutonic cycle. We're in the Pluto returns. We had a Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter conjunction in 2019 when all this kind of craziness began with the, the Plutonic cycle requires a life review, requires going into the dark night of the soul, but on a collective level. We've all had that in our own personal lives. But now on a collective level, we're being pushed through the birth canal to get to the other side, but they're doing everything they can to cause us to be in fear, fight or flight, and survival, and looking to outer authority to hold our hands, which is the worst hand to be holding right now. So we need to really understand what's going on with the planet, the geophysics of this planet, things related to stargates and the planetary grid network, and the cosmic and earthly events that are really reassuring us in these times that everything is taking us to a higher level, but we are replicas of the planetary grid network, and we have to be participants in undoing the mind control and where we've been siphoned into the dark reversal, dark technologies that were put in place in certain sacred sites that are actual technologies related to the negative alien agenda. We have to understand all that, or else we don't know what to unhook from. Just like if we were married, we would want to know if there's red flags and somebody might be cheating or lying. Do we really want to stay in that relationship? Can we face the truth so that we can move on to something better? This is going to require a certain level of maturity and courage. And we need to hold the hands of those that are going to be very heartbroken by this level of deception. And we need to do everything we can to mitigate the damages of all this weaponry that has been used against us for so long. And there's nothing we can't heal, cure, or alchemize. But we need to drop, and I know people like us don't go there, but this whole right and left and this, it's like, how many times is history going to repeat itself? I'm surprised more people aren't like, but I don't say that in a judgmental way. This is a very, very tragic thing to awaken from. We might be awakened, but those that are just awakening, it's the most painful script to be given.
I know.
To wake up from. It's like the most brutal and cruel script that is being thrown at humanity. But once that awakening happens, I feel there's nothing we can't recover from. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm the one interrupting you. But, I agree with you completely. I actually think that this is all about waking up humanity one at a time. And they have actually taken out the light workers. One of the first groups they took out were the light workers. I come from Marin County. Okay, just so you know, it's where I raised my kids. 99% of Marin County years ago were against anything like this, just so you know. Now, of course, they're the first to sign up. And so, not that that's bad or good, but I see that people have been completely taken over. And then here we are really standing up for truth, freedom, light, and sovereignty. And it's a huge deal. And we're all being called to remember who we are and how powerful we are. So I like that you're giving messages, Laura, that power is within us to reclaim our sovereignty, to reclaim our knowledge, and to hold true. So even knowing that they've put us on this other timeline and that we're breaking free and that it may look grim, but it's still all an illusion because they're doing all this so intensely because we are breaking free. So let me ask you a few other questions. And there are people talking now about the solar flares, this cosmic event that's coming, and that the new Earth is going to come right behind it and there's nothing to worry about. I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, I'm not much into predictions. I mean, as much as I understand astrology, it's like, anything's possible, but I just don't really go there. I mean, as far as the astrology is concerned, we're dealing with Saturn squares Uranus. Pluto's about to move into Aquarius. There's a lot of light energy coming through the Uranus Aquarius energy. So people talk about the Aquarian Age. What is that really about? Well, Uranus is a very electrical energy. It connects with sovereignty and truth and the unified field, 0-point unified field energies. And it has to do with, the masculine polarity within ourselves, and the magnetic would be considered the feminine, but it's not about gender. It's just about our physiology, about our DNA, and about also the planetary grid network. So Pluto, which is the magnetic, being in Aquarius, and all the Pluto square Uranus and all the different conjunctions that people were born with Pluto and Uranus, these are the initiatory planets. The initiatory planets take us through these kind of rites of passages that society doesn't really recognize. It kind of inverts it and like throws us a lot of holidays, but it's all about consumption and a lot of junk food. And, it doesn't mean that we don't make the best of it and have fun with family during those times. But we're in a very inverted system. So the Plutonic energy with Aquarius and Uranus square Saturn is creating the conditions, if we can stand in alignment, to really upgrade our dormant DNA and to really, get switched on. So I think if enough people do that, there's going to be a natural event that occurs that is a reflection of this level of awakening and upgrades. I don't think it just happens, but if it does, it's probably a lot of people won't survive it. It might be too much for their energetic body, for their physical body, and the density that they might be vibrating in to actually handle. So it might wipe out a lot of people and it might wake up a lot of people. I can't really predict when that's going to happen. The astrology and just kind of going beyond just the zodiac, but going into like the galactic and understanding the dark technologies of Saturn, moon matrix, knowing that the rings of Saturn are dissolving somehow and things are changing with the moon, and people are talking about different events taking place that are turning sort of the moon chain lineages, and the gray ET sort of reptilian agenda is turning it around. But the thing is, it's like, I don't put any attention on, oh yeah, all the underground bases are being cleared and Venus is now taking over the moon. It's like, yeah, maybe. But, I know on a ground level, we still have a lot of work to do. So I can only kind of work on a ground level, right, knowing that if we work on a ground level, it's naturally going to reflect a evolving planet into higher earth energies and into events that are going to help switch on more people in a more accelerated way. And so I can only kind of come from that particular place. I have no doubt that something like that is very possible, but I don't have dates set on it. And I wouldn't say that I'm an expert of what that event's going to look like, but I did have a reoccurring dream when I was a kid of this major like light energy coming from like Grand Central Sun beyond the sun. And everybody thought it was like a bomb or an atomic bomb, and they were running away scared. And I was like, here it is. And I was like basking in the light, and it was like this huge event, but everybody was running for their lives. I'm like, no, this is good. So I don't know if that means anything to this day. I haven't had that dream since I was like a little kid, but.
Well, I appreciate you sharing it, and you're saying what I say all along. This is the time to chop wood and carry water. This is our personal grand initiation. You'll never get a better chance to have your initiation than now, because it's a life and death. It's a full 100%, either you're in or you're out kind of initiation. And each of us has our own opportunity for that. We get to watch everyone else go through it too, but it is our opportunity. And that's why I find these the most exciting of times. I wake up every day going, this is my time, Joan of Angels, Joan of Arc. This is Joan of Arc's time for sure to remember who we are, and at least, raise our flag and hold steady for that. And that is why we're here, guys. And it looks like they tried to take most of us out as before we even got to this place. And so our job is, I think, to stand tall and then to wake up the people behind us. And I think that's everyone else's job too, because they have managed to put the whole entire planet to sleep. So let's talk about that mass hypnosis. I kind of think it's, when I look at it, Laura, and I see these massive waves of people asleep, it has to do with it's not just about medically or what it's that they, I don't know, did they bring in a whole new group of people that were asleep that aren't even half earthlings? There's something very weird to me going on. Do you have any thoughts about that? I can't even put it into words.
Yeah, I mean, this has been planned for so long. So when we look at where are the roots of it? We could talk Anunnaki, we could talk Orion Wars, Lyran Wars, how it all stepped down into the physical plane when we dropped into this lower harmonic universe. There's all sorts of events that took place that nobody really talks about, like the electrical wars, the root races that were originally Polaris, Hyperborea, then Lemuria, Atlantis, and the fall of Atlantis and all the cataclysms that took place, really began to make this covert sort of shadow 13 families, whatever, and how that relates to shadow government and everything that is kind of hiding behind the scenes that's now being exposed. That's been sort of engineering a lot of dark cycles of humanity, a lot of world wars, a lot of amnesia that we were born with, a lot of, targeting of just how we relate to ourselves as masculine and feminine energies. And every culture and every tradition is a little bit different. But the indigenous cultures, of course, have been very removed and targeted and mistreated. And the ancient wisdom and knowledge got pretty much wiped. The Christ Templars and got wiped. The Essenes got wiped. I mean, the level of Holocaust and genocides that have happened throughout our human history is very, very vast. And the whole point of the 7 root races and the 5 cloister races, 7 plus 5 is 12, is so that in unity consciousness, we could help rebuild our DNA by giving each other different codes or different energetics that help us to switch on what's dormant. But they've done a real great job at pitting us against each other. But it doesn't really work. We know, like when we travel or we meet people, when you're above all that, it's like there's no barrier at all. So a lot of us don't exist in that level of indoctrination and mind control. But I think what the next level has been, because this has been planned, is there's a lot of super soldiers and MK Ultra, even 20 and back folks that are wandering around with no memories of serving in the secret space programs. There's actually millions walking amongst us that have had those experiences that might potentially be chipped. A lot of people have broken through those programs. But I talked to Laura Worley, who I'm about to see. She's written some books. She said in 2014-15, a lot of those that were under the MK Ultra got pulled back into being reprogrammed, even though they are whistleblowers or they think they've awakened and they're able to call out the trauma-based mind control or abuses that they've gone through. They're not necessarily free of it. And a lot of them are playing influential roles, acting as teachers in these times or ascension guides. And I'm not going to name names. And a lot of those that are out there that might have been through it have broken through it too. So there's no way to really determine. We just have to have discernment and be very, very careful. So a lot of influential people in society, not just, and I think very few are in this community that are still running an altar. So I don't want to like put too much focus on that. But as far as larger society, we have the Hollywood industry and a lot of the celebrity world, politicians that are steering this narrative, that are impacting people and pretending that it's coming through things like climate change or my body, my choice. And it's absolute hypocrisy as far as, you know, everything else is concerned. And people just aren't seeing through it because a lot of influential people look like they're progressive or they're liberals. The whole concept of liberal and Democrat is not what it used to be. And I've always avoided politics. People are like, aren't you an Eisenhower? You've never voted? I'm like, no, I know it's all crap. Sorry. And it matters though if a person has voted. You know, we put our best intention forward and we hope for the best, and we, you know, might think that somebody is going to be able to carry through with their word. But people, you know, have to realize that a lot of them are carrying altars. There's a lot of Manchurian candidates, a lot of sleeper agents. And the thing is, when you're in an altar, you can sound sincere. You can steer the public into really loving you. But then they switch on a different altar, and all of a sudden, that person is weaponized to take us down a road we don't want to go. So we have to understand the level of MK Ultra, Project Monarch, secret space programs, and that millions of these folks are walking amongst us. That's why even somebody that is just compromised or had a difficult childhood can be programmed through their phone to run an assassination or a school shooting. And more than likely, they've been in a heavier project or program. We have to know what we're dealing with, because the false narratives being steered from engineered individuals and storylines that are engineered in order to capture our emotions and our minds is at an all-time high. We need to understand that as a humanity.
And we probably have never experienced a time when it wasn't happening to us. Because, you know, I have this theory that many of us who are, quote, light workers, we came in here, they already knew what we were here for. They knew what role you were going to take. They knew what role I take. And so they already had their agents ready to disempower us from birth and childhood. So we've been targets our entire life. So knowing that we've been targets, because they knew that we would be standing up and having this show, and that Laura is going to do Laura and Joan will do Joan and Joan of Arc, or what, you know, that we're coming
I just
back.
love everything you do. Anyway, keep going. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to hear more about that.
Yeah. Well, I want to interview you. Anyway,
well,
keep going.
Do that. Let's do that next. Okay. Because this is really interesting. I know this is not like most of your interviews also, because I want to personally empower each and every one of us light workers out there. And that's not a word I ever used to use because I thought it was just too generic. But, you know, I teach that we all carry that light, and that if we can hold it and get it up there to the higher dimensions, we can change the planet and heal the planet. And so it's a one-on-one job, guys. But when we do it together, then we're a brilliant light. And I think that that's our hope for humanity. That is our hope to shift into this ascension timeline, as if we're all doing it together, like the million monkey theory, you know, the million human, that we step into that humanity of us. And that's where I think you shine, by the way. You not just share the hard truths, you know, about the evil that's going on, but then you actually have heart, you have solutions. You have heart-based solutions.
Oh yeah, no, it's very difficult to just share that darker part without, I mean, the solutions came to me, or just all that was kind of first for me just in this incarnation. And I know it's carried over from many, many lifetimes. But yeah, in order to be able to reclaim our treasures, we have to understand what the gatekeepers are all about, what the things are that are manipulated
Yes.
out of like retrieving our own divine birthright. And it's very deep and it's very multi-layered. And so it has to, be called out, but it's not a destination. It's not the end all be all. It's just a phase that we're moving through. When we go into the dark night of the soul and the plutonic energy, we're looking to reclaim the creative cauldron, the mother womb, right? That's turned into hell. We become very unconscious to our own dark. We give our power away to others because we're afraid of that power within us. We're afraid of our own darkness. People avoid the dark night of the soul, or might be like, oh, I'm depressed or something's wrong with me, when actually they're going through initiation. So they give their power away. They go on a pharmaceutical. They numb the ability to move through that initiation because they fear it. So our growth is stunted as humans. If we can just breathe through it and like give unconditional love to our wounds, our traumas, our flaws, our ego hangups, and just really embrace the journey of really going deep and going within into that shadow stuff, we will be working the shadow side of humanity, and we will no longer be vampired off of, because they're counting on our vulnerabilities and our fears that we can turn around. So our vulnerabilities can be more about transparency and being authentic and speaking truth and not shaming the dark side of spirituality, which means that we have to face the shadow and the muck without judgment, right? We got to have compassion for each other too, and hold hands together during this time. I think that is the enlightened approach in these times, instead of thinking that we can light and love everything away and just avoid it. Yeah. So, I mean, this is what I love about what you do and about Portal to Ascension, because it's not afraid to face that level of what it's going to take, while also not focusing so much on it that it leaves a person feeling like in pain and constriction. And I try and avoid that at all costs. If I do a presentation and I expose some dark stuff, it's like that's minor compared to the fullness of what we are here to embrace and remember about who we are and what we are to each other, and how we're connected to this earth and multidimensional cosmos and true God source beyond the lower creator gods that have duped us through religion, and separated us from the mother and created a lot of falsities and false teachings that have really wiped out the truth about the mother energy and its return, which they are absolutely frightened of. It's not of an individual, it's the planetary consciousness that many women like yourself embody, and men do as well, right? It's the divine template in our DNA of the mother, father, Christ, Sophia child, which is the cosmic trinity. That is encoded in our DNA. They are so petrified. The minute we wake up to that, we start to activate our galactic chakras, our 8th and 9th chakra, which is an infinity spiral around our head. That's when they lose a grip of us. And that's when the psychic attack increases. That's why the psychic attacks on humanity have increased, because this is a time of acceleration. And so they have to up the dark agendas that they've planned for a while, because they knew the astrology. They knew about the ascension window. Like you said, we've been targeted before birth, after birth. They've been tracking when certain light workers or star seeds are going to come in, and they put their claws in as early as possible in order to throw us off. And guess what? It didn't work. And it won't.
And we feel bad. And we think there's something wrong with us. And you know what you just reminded me of, Laura? So, we know how we're told that our memory is wiped out when we come down here. You come down to earth, they wipe out your memory. Well, yeah, they do. But they also then wipe out every remembrance of your memory that was actually here on the planet. Like they're doing, it's a double, triple whammy, because it's not like you could come down here and restore your memories, because now they have actually wiped out the history. They've taken away the books. They've changed the timeline so much that it's actually impossible, almost impossible, but it's not impossible. And that's what we have to remember. The secret to making it through this life is to follow that little thread. That's how I learned to do readings, Laura, was I'd see it as a little thread, like a little choo-choo train, like Thomas the Engine. It would come by with this one little piece of data that looked ridiculous. But if I said it, I realized it was the truth. And that's the truth. To follow, guys, that little thread that you go, oh no, that can't possibly be right. but we know that that's right because that's how they fool us. But it's just a tiny little thread that will take you into that like unraveling the matrix. That's what I've discovered.
Beautiful.
And you terrified me when I first heard you that time. And I'm going to be honest with my audience here. I was terrified because you were demanding that people around wake up. You were revealing the truth, and it was like, oh my God, I can't be a rabbit, but I'm not as brave as Laura. Oh. She's so brave. And I know people think that about you, that you're just so brave that if I were Laura, I could do this. And what I've had to learn for the last 12 years is that, yes, I have everything I need inside me to wake up and to stand up. And by knowing you and that people like you are in my life, it gives me courage, or a mentor, or a vision that I too can stay strong. And I want everyone here, if you get one thing out of this, is that each of you has that power within you to hold steady like Laura does, or like I'm learning to. Honestly, I've been learning from Laura all these years.
I learned from you guys.
We have that, find those people who are doing that you wish you had the courage to do, be, say, because, I also realize that we have in our throat chakra, the male patriarchy right here, that they just put right in here so we can never speak our truth. And so we're learning to free that. So you've been this mentor, this role model, just by virtue of doing you.
Well, geez. Wow. I mean, if you had a hidden camera watching me in my daily life, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of emotions. I process through so much stuff.
Well, you're human too.
Yeah. And oh God. Yeah.
We are.
It just kind of like something just pushes you. It's like you almost have no choice. I mean, I learned from everybody around me. It's a mutual thing. We all have our roles. We're putting our heads together. I knew that in 2010, I needed to expose the Mars recruitment. That really opened up the door for the rest of the information to come through that I've been in touch with, most of my life and many lifetimes. And like you said, that part of us that they're trying to shut down can create a lot of, self-doubt or confusion or feeling different or not wanting to be here. And all the negativity that can be generated from feeling a vibratory difference with yourself and everybody around you has to be flipped over to courage and being authentic and just being true to you no matter what, because you're going to probably, repel some old friends or some people in your life. But what is the cost of sticking around just to make others happy or comfortable at the cost of your own soul mission or your own truth frequency or your own capacity to answer to that deeper calling? And so that's, I think, where people run into that wall. What'll my parents say? I'm going to lose this, or I won't get that paycheck anymore, or I'm afraid of having to move and having to do this. And I got kids. It's like, so I did too. I lived on the road. I barely made it, but it was worth like letting go of any false sense of security to answer to myself and my truth and to a greater love and unconditional love that I was feeling from the mother, from whatever. And from spirit guides, Eisenhower, and everybody's got that. I'm not, just because I'm related to Eisenhower doesn't mean anything. You can invoke protection and guidance from anything under the sun, and a lot of it is just us connecting to our own higher self. And you're, a very strong representative of the angelics. Those angels are walking amongst us like yourself, and you're like really giving a voice to the human experience that is reclaiming that angelicness. The angelic lines, the Holy Grail lines, were seeded a long time ago. And yes, we were talking about being targeted. So they definitely go after the kids, right? I was told I have learning disabilities. I was told, I need to be on this drug and that drug. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I stopped going to school. I'm like, this is not worth it to me. I'm going to live life on my own terms, but in integrity. And I couldn't stand the projections. I couldn't stand the stigma. So when I get complimented or you say these things, I'm still like that little kid that's just like, oh God, I'm just like, but I know that that's not the truth, but we have to drop all that. And so I do readings. I'm doing readings again. I do medical astrology, intuitive astrology. And it's very much like you said, that thread. What are the initiatory planets? What are the blocks? What are the ancestral patterns? What are the dynamics that you're looking to break and overcome, so that I see it as a mat getting us back into the 0 point, to the point where the patternings of the planets don't impact us as much because it relates to our organs, our nervous system, our endocrine system, and our chakras and everything. So if we can overcome a certain patterning that keeps us looping and have that breakthrough, then the treasure map of the zodiac and the wheel of necessity and looping in this incarnational time cycle ceases to be relevant anymore. But there's a lot of people incarnating to the human wheel that aren't experiencing it in other ways. And I would say that you're definitely one of those types that, you know, we are called to a greater mission. I'm not saying we're any better or more advanced, but it's not about that. It's about being able to help switch people on and activate them so they can be in their own sovereignty and truth frequency.
With a mission to do that, which is true, which is my mission, and I know it's your mission too. So it's so funny. I was just looking at the comments. I was told when I was a kid never to be an artist. I just have to tell everyone. I was told that I didn't have a creative bone in my body and that I should be a bookkeeper or an accountant, just so you know. So I am an artist. I'm probably one of the most creative people around, but we are, anything that the other side can do to get you to turn off your own gifts and to have it self-induced, they try from an early age. So your job, guys, is to really start remembering all those little threads. Like, oh yeah, remember when we were a kid, we used to like to paint, we used to draw, we used to talk to angels. That's really the truth about who you are. The rest of it is all an illusion and a lie. So Laura, let's talk about what you're doing, how people can find you, how they can engage with you. And then when am I going to be on your show?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I will be back from out of town on Tuesday. So we'll get back in touch when I get back and I'll figure out my schedule. My website's cosmicgaia.org. You've been putting all the information in the stream, which is awesome. Yeah, my YouTube channel, but everything's pretty much on my website. I'm doing readings again. You can go to bookings and book something. And yeah, I'm on Facebook. A lot of this social media stuff with the censorship, it's a new account. It's not my original account. But yeah, I'm available for consultations and astrology readings. And if you just want to chat, ask any questions about the material that I put out there, you can book something. And yeah, I'm just thrilled to be here. This is one of my favorite interviews. It's just like, this stuff so deeply and you embody it so much. And we've known each other for so long that this was extra fun and special for me. So thank you, Joan, and Portal to Ascension, of course, and everybody for, tuning in and for, the support. Cause I don't walk around like sometimes in any recognition of the fact that I've had any impact. And it's always kind of stuns me when I get this level of positive feedback. So I'm just so grateful. It's a mutual thing. We're a family. And I love you all so much.
I remember when I first gave you a hug, and that was also 2010. So, I've known you for a while and watched. But Laura, this has been a fantastic interview. And I think it's fantastic because you're telling people the truth, but you're also giving them the positive tools, which goes back to look within. We're each a god, we're each a goddess. We each came in with that mission to do what we can to stand tall. And you would not be on this show. You wouldn't even be loving Laura if that wasn't part of your creed. So I know that to be true. So Laura, until next time, I'm just so grateful. If you want to hang out in the back, fine. If you want to leave, fine. But we're just so happy that you came on the show. We love you so much. You have a last minute word for everyone?
Oh, well, just all the love to you and everybody. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I'm going to have to go because I'm taking a trip. I almost didn't. I had kind of a weird week. I'm sure some people heard about it, but I'm doing fine. I bounced back real quick. And I kind of mentioned in my last interview, I think I just did a live, that it's far worse being wounded by those that are close to you and those that you love than somebody that is corrupt. I'd much rather be dealing with, I would rather not deal with any of it, but I can overcome abuses from forces and sources that I know are compromised. It's the ones that are closest and that are friends or loved ones that to me is a lot worse. But they're weaponizing our friends and loved ones. We have to be very, very strong because we're being tested right now to protect our auric field and protect our consciousness and our minds and our emotions from archonic intrusion any form of social engineering or divide and conquer. So we have to have unconditional love and forgiveness to those that are being impacted and infected by it, but also maintain boundaries and protect ourselves as well. And I'll just leave it at that. And thank you.
So well said. I love you. I love you. I love you. We'll see. We'll talk next week, and just keep doing you, Laura.
Thank you. You as well. Beautiful Joan. I love you. Bye.
I love you. Okay, she's our cosmic Gaia and our cosmic warrior, and so many interesting truths that she brought out. And yes, we could just crumble from the weight of it, but we don't, because we know who we are. So guys, the fact that you are waking up despite all opposition to us waking up, you know, that barrier of mass hypnosis, you guys are waking up. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of Laura with all that she's had to go through to do what she's doing too. So I hope you engage with her and have some sessions with her. It'd be great. Also, come and join us on some of our upcoming Portal to Ascension webinars, and also look for me, Joan of Angels, at joanofangels.com. If you're new to me, go check out my channel, my YouTube channel, Joan of Angels, and check out my website. Look at those readings as well, because I help you remember who you are and why you're here. And that, if I have one takeaway from today's show, is that remembering who we are and why we're here is critical, so that when the SHIT hits the fan, you remember that you were born for this, and we were. So love you, love from Portal to Ascension to all of you, and we'll see you all next time. Bye for now. I've always helped people remember who they are and feel into their power, feel into what their gifts and their skills are. I've really helped people let go of what no longer serves them and transform that into fuel for their mastery, for them to shift their life into the positive. The magic happens when you can hear your heart sing. Literally hear your heart sing. I just want you to know you were born for this, that you have everything you need to really do you this lifetime. So let's get started. Let's make magic together.